Hey guys, how's it going? It's your boy Gaz919 here, and today we're going to be looking at the Mark 5 Volkswagen Golf. Now, to be fair, if it wasn't modified, you'd be correct in thinking it is a bit dull, but I think the modifications sort of uplift it a bit, especially when you put it beside the Mark 6 and the Mark 4. I think it's the ugly duckling of the bunch, in my opinion, of course. Nevertheless, that's not exactly me saying it is a bad car, but we'll get into that later. So let's have a look at what is the purpose of this car, realistically. It's a small family car, really. That's what it is. And I'll tell you something, first thing I think of whenever I see this car is instant TARDIS. And to any of you that haven't watched Doctor Who, what I mean by that is the amount of space you have inside these things is absolutely insane. And looking at it from the outside, it doesn't really look like you'd have a lot of space, especially when you look at it from the rear end. And speaking of the back end, let's start from there. We're going to look in the boot, but before we do, you'll notice that we have these twin tips here. These aren't standard on the 2-litre GT Sport. These are obviously aftermarket. This is an R32 bumper that came with the car, and we had a standard exhaust, so I thought this car, realistically, it needs a R32 exhaust or something replicating it so it just fills them gaps, and I think it does do it quite well. But anyway, back to the point at hand here. Going into the boot, as you can see, there is plenty of space. Now, if you need to do a weekly shop, if you want to go away for a few weeks, there is just almost infinite amount of room. And like I said, from the outside, you'd think that you wouldn't have this sort of space, but there's plenty of space. Nice little storage areas for your bags, nice little bit for your oil. It's a 2-litre diesel, so obviously it needs that, as it's always leaking. That was a very nice Mercedes. Obviously under here, as standard, you get your spare wheel, all your gubbins and things like that. But yeah, so it's quite spacey for what it is. And you've even got like anchor points and things like that, so it's quite a well thought out boot. And with that, you'd think you'd lose space with the back seats, but you'd be wrong. So going into the back seat, you can see here, it's pretty standard. Ignore the bit of rubbish. This is my partner's car, we have a child, it's expected. But obviously you've got your standard ISOFIX base, and even though you've got all that nice boot room, you've got a lot of leg room. And even though it might not look like a lot on camera, you've got to bear in mind that's in my driving position, and I'm like just under 6 foot. Okay, so as I was saying about this, we have the plenty of knee room, and to say, obviously, like I said, I've got this seat set to my driving position as a just under 6 foot male. I've got plenty of knee room, and then I've still got plenty of headroom as well. I really like the headroom on this car, it's really nice. There's a good gap there, and even you have the standard thing where you've got a nice armrest, and I think you've got to have a good armrest in a car. There are some that don't come with them in the back, but it's a no-brainer in my opinion. Front, back, everybody needs an armrest. It should be law. But yeah, it's not exactly the worst place to be in the world. We've got electric windows in the back. You obviously can isolate that from the front so the kids don't start messing about with them out like that. You've got your fans in the center console, which is quite a nice touch. It's a nice place to be, and the seats are comfy as well, like, because the front seats are comfy, but you'd think that you'd lose that comfort going into the back, but you really don't. You keep that comfort, and you can really see yourself spending a good few hours in this back seat to your holiday destination. Okay, so first thing when you hop inside this driver's seat, you will notice is a purple octopus. No, on a serious note, the first thing you will notice is it's actually quite a large steering wheel, and I sort of like it because for the driving position it puts you in, you sort of sit like here, so you can see everything through this little gap. And also, you know, you've got loads of things. This is aftermarket. I agree with this. I don't know what it is about the stereo that comes from factory, but I just think it looks so dull. Again, personal opinion, love it, hate it, that's just what I think. But I think that's a good call, and you know, you got this little bit of space here, which is quite nice. Extra things that you get with this particular model, we've got our heated seats, we have our auto headlights, and talking about the lights, if you notice, they do have the indicators, they stay on. Now that was something that got programmed in, obviously that doesn't come with the car. Anyway, the overall feel of the interior is, I definitely don't think I'd say cheap too much. Like, I mean, you've got this creaky bit of plastic here, but apart from that, everything else is actually quite nice. I like the black finish on the door and around the car. And again, these leather seats in the front, I think these have to be the most comfortable seats I have sat in. They're even more comfortable than my BMW, I think. But yeah, we get things like auto dimming rear mirror as well. The only problem that you have on these, and it's a really big common problem on these, is if you notice this headliner, a really saggy headliner. And yeah, this one's sagging quite a bit now, and it's quite... I've never done anything like that myself or had that job done, but I've heard it can be a bit pricey if you want to go somewhere to get it done. So just bear that in mind if you're thinking about getting one of these. So this car is a 2-litre TDI engine, which is kicking out about 140 brake. I think specifically it's 138. But yeah, basically 140 brake, hence why it's a GT 140, which it's referred to. They do two sorts of GTs. They do a GT 140 and a GT 170. Obviously, you can imagine how much brake horsepower the 170 is making if the 140 makes 140. Apparently so, the engines in this Mk5 Golf in general, you want to sort of try and steer clear of the TSI engines, and I think like the best sort of engine to be having has to be a 1.9 TDI. Apparently it just seems to be a bit better than the 2-litre. Also, I must say, I've got to give it props because it's got cup holders. It has 2 cup holders under there, and if anything that car makers sometimes forget, it's that people love cup holders. Okay, so now we're going to look at the driving side of things. So of course, with 138 ponies under the hood, it's not going to be like crazy powerful. It's not going to tear your face off, but it'll be enough to get you out of a sticky situation maybe. So it drives as expected really, you know, it's just a nice family car. It's easy enough to drive, nothing feels too difficult. Yeah, the steering feels nice and solid. It feels quite responsive, a little bit boaty. Acceleration it's there. Again, it's not something that's going to quite rip your face off or make you get really excited, but it is there. You can dip it into the corners okay, and it doesn't get too upset about that. It is quite forgiving. But yeah, I don't know, it's not the worst car I've driven, but then at the same time it's alright. It's one of those. You can't really speak a bad word about it, but it's sort of exactly what you'd think 140 brake horsepower would feel like. So there we have it guys, a review on the Volkswagen Golf. In my opinion, to summarise, I'd say if you have got a family and you want a cheap second-hand run around, definitely go for this, but try and go for the 1.9. But bear in mind, these are getting on a bit, and obviously they do suffer from things like the dual mass sometimes quite commonly tends to fail on them. You know, just general older car things, but if you can still get well looked after ones, and you know, when they do get looked after, they will last a very long time. These TDI engines are really tough, so I definitely recommend getting one. If you have the money for a 1.9, I'd definitely get that. But yeah, it's a great car. It is an excellent car. Plenty of space. Fuel economy anywhere up to 70 mpg, maybe 40 mpg if you're driving a bit fruity. But it's definitely the car to get if you have a small family and you want something to get you about. But that is it for this video guys. If you did enjoy it, please don't forget to like, subscribe, maybe even hit that bell icon for notifications on future uploads. Until the next time, peace.